All right, what's up, guys? Can everybody hear me okay? Shoot some comments out there, man. All right, we got Brent from Michigan, Lummox Overland Adventures. Good to see you again, my friend. I'm just going to break out a nice, manly, refreshing beverage here. Looks like I'm going to have a blackberry bubbly today. Hopefully you guys can see and hear me okay. It's windy as heck out here, so I'm kind of tucked back behind the truck. I'm hoping that's going to, okay, good. Thanks, Matt, for the heads up on how it sounds from your side. So hopefully the wind's not going to be too much of a problem. It should die down here momentarily is what I'm hoping. God, that's very good. Very good. Sorry about this. I got to get all my ducks in a row here. All right, so real quick, before I get too deep in this whole thing, I wanted to show you guys, I've got these Crazy Carlson's pickled asparagus, and my friends Nick and Sarah that you guys will see on here. I don't know if they're on here tonight, but Nick and Sarah are usually on here. And they brought these to me for a gift, but these things are freaking amazing. I'm almost out of them, but they're nice and spicy, so I'm gonna have to go online and figure out where to get these from. Or Nick and Sarah, if you're on here, give us all a heads up and let us know where we can get these. I guess this is some dude, I think maybe Nick even knows him. Oh yeah. Brian scratched the surface on Frederick Butte. Yeah, so I had given him some pointers on some spots out there to go, and got an Instagram message from him, and it sounded like he made it out there to some pretty cool spots. So let's see here. Oh, good. Looks like I've got pretty good reception. So I actually didn't have, oh man, right out of the gate, Caldo Wolf, man, thank you, my friend. Let's see. Let me get that back up here. Oh, sorry you can't stay long, but that's pretty cool that you can jump on for a minute at work. And then let's see, who else do we have on here? Kramer Junction, man. That's awesome. Thank you, my friend. How are you doing? Long time no see. It seems like you've been kind of quiet on Instagram, man. I don't remember seeing any pictures pop up in my feed the last couple of days on you. Mark Taniguchi, how are you, my friend? So, first of all, I wanted to tell you guys, I apologize about last week. I had kind of planned on that in April, I would probably slow down these lives, and I think what I'm going to have to do is what I'm going to try to do is I'll try to do them every other Sunday. Now that the days are longer, and I know you guys want to see me out on trips and stuff, so sometimes it's just a little hard for me to get back into town and everything in time on Sunday. Holy smokes. Brian, thank you, my friend. Really appreciate that. Yeah, and so anyway, man, I'm hopefully let's see, I'm gonna see if I can find a Instagram message here really quick. Yeah, so anyway, Brian had reached out to me, and he had asked about a spot to go kind of overlanding, a cool area out in Central Oregon. So I sent him out kind of to the Frederick Butte area. And so what I'm trying to do, guys, and you guys will see in this most recent video I have coming up, what I'm trying to do is actually throw some more spots out there for some of you that aren't from the Central Oregon area that want to come over here and adventure to some spots. I'm trying to throw more information out there in my videos, and for sure DM me, you know, especially for you guys that participate in the lives here. I try to watch out for your messages and everything, so hit me up, DM me on Instagram, and I'll try to point you in the right direction to some spots. But also pay attention to some of the videos that I'm doing more recently, because those I am starting to put more location info out in them. In fact, this video that I'm doing of this trip that I just got back from, I actually put quite a few spots in there. Text Pat, what's up, my friend? Exciting news. I don't know if Black Pearl Voyager's on here, but super cool guy. I don't know if you've seen Black Pearl Voyager on Instagram, also on YouTube. I think down in the description of this video below, I've got a link to a channel, but it just so happens that Black Pearl Voyager is a ham guy. He's a radio guy. So forever, I've been wanting to get my ham license. And so last weekend, I jetted over to, in fact, that was part of what got my weekend so behind that I couldn't do the live. So last weekend I went over, actually stayed with Black Pearl Voyager. So thank you again, my friend, for the hospitality, for putting me up at the house, feeding me for a couple of days. But I took kind of the ham technician crash course and then took my test last Saturday and passed it. So it's should be official. I'm just waiting for my update on the FCC website. They say it takes about 10 days to 2 weeks, but hopefully I should officially be licensed. So I know some of you guys have been really encouraging me to do that for a long time. So thank you for the encouragement and everything. And I'm really looking forward to kind of diving a little bit deeper into the ham radio communications. And actually, Black Pearl Voyager was, he actually taught the class on Friday night and Saturday, kind of the crash course to prep you for the exam. Really good teacher, really knowledgeable guy. So hit him up if you're interested in taking a class. He's over in kind of the Portland area, not too far outside of Portland, over in that area. So look him up, Black Pearl Voyager, Instagram or YouTube. I think he's got classes on a pretty regular basis. So as you guys know, ham is a part of my communications plan for kind of my, contingency planning, I'll call it, or as I like to refer to it, my zombie apocalypse planning. So having the ham radios, getting better at using them, getting better equipment is kind of a part of my bug out scenario. So I'm excited to dive deeper now that I'm legal to use some of the channels and stuff. DMR dude saying just say no to Baofeng. Well, that's going to be hard because I already have like 5 of those Baofeng UV5Rs or 5R variants. However, having said that, I did made it a kind of a goal of mine. A lot of times what I do to give myself motivation to accomplish things in life is, so here's your pro tip for the day, guys, is this is something a Coyote Works trick. So you know how a lot of times when you're interested in getting in a new hobby, what you do first is you run out and you buy a whole bunch of cool gear to get into that hobby? Well, what I've been doing, or what I've started doing a long time ago, is like when I want to get into a new hobby, I set some goals to accomplish some things and then buy myself some new gear, some cool new gear. So for example, when with the ham communication stuff, basically I set a goal to get my technician license, and then as a reward, to reward myself for getting my license, now I can go out and buy some cool gear. I don't know if you guys remember, but I did the same thing a couple of years ago when I really wanted to buckle down and really ramp up my shooting ability. And so basically I did it all with completely bone stock, relatively inexpensive Glock handguns and stock AR-15 rifles. And so basically what I did was I gave myself a goal to accomplish a certain thing. And one of my goals was a under 1 second draw from concealment. And I had a couple of others, but that was a big one for me, was getting my concealed carry draw down to under a second. And so I accomplished that a couple of times, and then as a result of that, then I went out and got myself the Gucci Glock from Faxon that you guys have seen before. So anyway, that's a tip, is like usually people go out, your instinct when you want to do something new and cool is to go out and buy all the awesome gear for it. What happens is you invest all this money and time and energy into the gear, and then you never really develop the skills that go along with it. So for my ham radio, I got my technician license, so now I can buy some nicer equipment. So I'm probably going to get a nicer, like I'm thinking there's a couple of Yaesus that I'm hearing good things about, handheld, so I'll probably get one of those. And then maybe like a Kenwood or a nicer dash mount one for my vehicles. All right, so I got a question here. Whoops, disappeared really fast. How do I locate areas that could have historical significance before I set out on my trips? And so this is a question from Schwann's 10101. looks like he's getting ready to go on a really long trip, and he's curious about how to locate historical or potential historical sites before you set out on a trip. So that's basically what I do all the time, is I do kind of research, and one of the best ways to do it, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit more later tonight in this live stream, but one of the things that I do is I look at an area where I want to go, and then I start, I mean, obviously the low-hanging fruit is I'll just Google it. Like, say, for example, there's a little town called Shoshone, California, that's just outside of the southern part of Death Valley. So a while back, I was getting ready to go on a trip down there. And so basically what I'll do is I'll start out by just Googling like the basic, you know, history, Shoshone, California, or Shoshone, California history, or Shoshone, California old pictures. Zatara, thank you, my friend. Boat rental, so I can accidentally lose all of my guns in a boating accident. Man, I really appreciate that. I will definitely use that. In fact, I was thinking about that going out on a trip across the reservoir out there, and I wanted to take all my guns with me. So hopefully I don't get in an unfortunate accident and lose all of them. But that's awesome. So anyway, the low-hanging fruit is I start by Googling history of whatever that area is that I'm going, especially if it's like a town or even like a county. You can look up the county that you're going to be in and Google like the history of that county. And a lot of times what you'll find is you'll find some tidbits about, you know, stagecoaches or old historic roads or things like that. So that's a really good place to start. Generally, what you'll find is you'll find enough information. I'll give you an example of when I was researching Shoshone, California on the southern end of Death Valley. What came back was one of the things that I read about a town called Greenwater. And I read it, there was a little story about this town called Greenwater, and the story was pretty typical one. It was that a promoter started rumors of railroad coming to Greenwater and basically created a little bit of land rush, and several hundred people moved out in the middle of the southern end of Death Valley to this little town of Greenwater. Well, as a result of that little piece of research and finding out that information, I was able to actually find the location, or at least the area of where that old town was. And it was a pretty good little jaunt by Jeep trail back into kind of a remote part of the valley. And so I ended up cruising back in there, and I found the ruins of the old town and found all the old cans and the old stone foundations and everything, and ended up spending the night there. In fact, there might be some clips. I've got a video, something about 9 days in Death Valley, and so I think I've got some video clips of that. So that's my tip, is basically just start by Googling towns that are where you're going to go and the history of those towns, or really any kind of a place name like that. And that'll start giving you an idea, and you just start digging down. The next thing is and this is something I really like to do, is find some books. So, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about this later, but for example, here's a book right here, Wood, Water, and Grass. And this is a pretty interesting title, so don't let me forget, I want to explain to you guys about this title, because it kind of ties into modern survival and camping too. But this book is about the Meek wagon train. So, you know, books like that are really cool. But honestly, the easiest thing is just Google it, and you'll find some of the main stuff. But just Google, you know, you can, and besides just Googling history, there's other like keywords you can use, like you know, let's just use the example of Shoshone, California. So, you know, you might throw in like homestead history of Shoshone, California, or ghost towns near Shoshone, California, or mining near Shoshone, California. CK Knife and Tool, Chad's up, man. Let's see. Looks like a long comment. Yep, hoping to do a YouTube live and was just on the fence of which day. Doctor appointment this week. Yeah, so I think I'll have to catch up on Instagram, but I think Chad's probably in the process of some kind of a move right now, it looked like, based on his last Instagram post that had the shop all cleaned out and everything. Awesome, man. Mountain Bound, first time you catch a live. Schwartz 10101, thank you, my friend. I really appreciate the contribution, and happy to do it. So let me check out my notes here because out tonight. So, first of all, I just wanted to say that I apologize about last week, but and reiterate to you guys that I will be doing these every other week. So I won't do one next Sunday. The next one after tonight that I'll do will be the following Sunday. And I'll continue to do posts on YouTube and Instagram the day of the live to remind you. So if you don't see a post from me on Instagram or YouTube on Sunday, that means there's no live. If you see a post, it'll happen. Another quick reminder is at Lolo Overland, all Coyote Works t-shirts are $20 for the entire month of April. So that sale's still going on there. And then remember too, if you use the code Coyote there at Lolo Overland, you'll get 5% off everything in your cart anytime. That's just normal. And then any purchase of over $100 at Lolo gets you a free Coyote Works t-shirt. They also have Coyote Works Trasharoos in stock over there now, so I'm pretty excited about that. I've already seen a couple of you guys with the Trasharoos. I can't tell you how cool it is to see the Coyote Works logo on stuff out there. That still just kind of blows me away. Like, I feel like I'm just a redneck kicking around in the desert and making some really crappy videos of my adventures, and it just blows me away to see, like, the logo of my channel floating around on t-shirts and vehicles and stuff. So that's super cool, man. I really appreciate all the support from you guys out there. Very, very, very awesome. So what I wanted to talk about, and you guys can see up behind me, this is the soft topper truck bed canopy. And so I just got back, like I said, this weekend. I camped in that thing over the course of the weekend. So actually, just spent one night in. I spent one night in it this weekend. So now I've camped in the soft topper on the back of Grandpa's truck for, oh gosh, I've probably got 10, 15 nights in that thing. So I wanted to talk a little bit about truck bed camping, and specifically in the soft topper canopy. So interestingly enough, and I've had a lot of people ask me about that, if that's a really good way to go. Well, so the thing that I think is really cool about the soft topper truck canopies is it's basically a really inexpensive, really lightweight way to have some cover for gear that you want to put in the back of your truck. And then it also basically can be a tent, so you can sleep in the back of the truck. Now, some of the things that that I really appreciate about, like, just bunking in the back of the pickup truck is basically, like, I set up a bedroll. My bedroll is like one roll that has my mattress, my sleeping bag, my pillow, everything rolled up in one. So like when I'm camping out of the truck bed, basically when it's time for bed, I just open up my bedroll, roll it out, and for the most part, I'm pretty much ready to crawl in there. Now, it's still pretty cold at night, so I've been using like my little buddy heater in there, so I'll get it out, I'll get some propane out, some little things like that. But for the most part, it's pretty much a ready-made shelter that you just crawl into and go to sleep. So that's pretty cool. I like that. So a couple of the things that I would say are the pros of sleeping in a soft topper, and most of these apply to any truck bed canopy, even a hard shell one, are, super convenient. It's always there. For the most part, if you have a canopy on your truck, you're going to leave it on there all the time. So you're not like taking on and taking off like, some people mount and dismount their rooftop tent from their vehicle or whatever. So the nice thing about a canopy is it's not adding a bunch of height to your rig. Generally speaking, you're leaving it on there. And even if it's your daily driver, your grocery getter, you can just leave the canopy on there all the time. Let's see here to make sure. Oh, Gene Valjean did it for 12 years out west. That's pretty crazy. Nate Zoink said he slept in the back of the XJ for years. Yeah. So, so those are kind of, in my mind, some of the upsides to it. You're not adding a bunch of weight or a bunch of height to your vehicle. They're not expensive, the soft toppers, and actually most truck bed canopies aren't extremely expensive. And then they also provide you some coverage for just whatever you might want to haul in the back of your pickup truck. Now, like around here in the country where I live in, like that's pretty imperative to have some kind of weatherproof cover on the back of your truck for it to be practical for much. Um, so what are some of the downsides? Well, one thing that I've really discovered, and I suspected this was going to be the case about the soft topper, is when you travel like I do quite a few miles off pavement on most of my trips. And what that means when it starts getting into the spring and the summer is dust. And one thing these soft toppers are not is very dust proof. So one thing I've noticed is that these last couple of trips that I've made in it, quite a bit of dust gets inside it. In fact, last night when I slept in it, by the time I pulled into camp and was setting up, like there was enough dust inside there that it wasn't really going to be that comfortable for me to sleep in. So I actually spent quite a bit of time like sweeping it out and then kind of wiping it down inside just to get some of the dust out of there. There was so much dust inside the canopy that even just moving around in there was like stirring up the dust. And I didn't really want to just lay in there and breathe dust all night long. So I would say that's a huge downside to it. And I know that can be an issue with other canopies too, even hardshell canopies. I've heard other people talk about having issues with dust inside them. So that to me is a big issue. So it's very likely that I won't probably do much more camping out of this soft topper canopy on Grandpa's truck this summer. What I'll do is if I'm going to use the truck, I'll either sleep in a ground tent, because a ground tent can stay inside a bag and I can pull it out, set it up fast, and it'll be a dust-free environment. Or I'll just take my Jeep and rooftop tent in the summer and use the soft topper for more of the shoulder season camping. So definitely the dust is one of the downsides. I would say another potential downside to a truck bed canopy, a soft topper or any other kind, is like I have a plastic bed liner inside there, so that creates a little bit of an air gap between the plastic bed liner and the metal bed. Also, plastic doesn't conduct heat and cold as well as metal does, so it insulates it a little bit. But one thing, way back in the day, I've slept in canopies in the back of trucks when they're just the metal bed, and they're terrible at regulating temperature. The metal just immediately and instantly conducts heat and cold out of it. So the bed of your pickup truck, unless it's got some kind of a bed liner in it or it's coated with something, or I mean even a coating isn't going to make it that insulated, they're just like a heat sink. So I would say that's another potential kind of downside with the truck bed. As far as like just the process of camping out of a truck bed canopy, one of the issues with setup is that generally speaking, depending on how much gear you have, but like for me, I have to pull all of my gear basically out of the bed of the truck to set up my bed in there. Now I'm kind of a tall guy, so I need a lot of room, but I basically need, the majority of the bed of the truck back. So what that means is I can't really leave camping gear in there and sleep in there at the same time. So that means every time I set up camp, all of my camping gear has to come out of there. Now, there are some alternatives to that. You can do a drawer slide system in your bed. So you have a lot of your gear that stays inside the drawer slide, and then you sleep on top of the deck of the drawer slides. Like, that process could work pretty good. For me, the downside is that most canopies aren't very tall, right? So my truck, the soft topper on the back of my truck, the ceiling height in it is lower than like most of the rooftop tents that I've run. In fact, I think all of the rooftop tents I've run. So what that means is it's really difficult like to get up on your knees in there, or to get any height, to be able to get yourself up very high to like change clothes and stuff. So that being the case, if you put a drawer slide system, if you put a deck and a drawer slide system in there, you're just going to reduce that amount of room you have between the deck and the top of the canopy, the ceiling height in there. Now, maybe that's not really an issue. Like if literally all you're going to do is crawl in there, fall asleep or whatever, that's not that big of a deal. The problem is, like for me out in this country, like there are times of the year when you know, it blizzards overnight or it's negative 13 degrees. And what I want to do is I want to change clothes. I want to put my boots on. I want to do stuff inside the tent out of the weather or inside the canopy out of the weather. So having that little extra ceiling height in there is really nice. So for me, what I do is I put my mattress on the deck of the truck bed canopy, and you guys will see this in my next video if you haven't seen it in one of my last videos, is I just roll out my bedroll right on the floor of the bed of the truck, and that gives me the maximum amount of ceiling height in there. So anyway, I just wanted to share that. You know, I think of the pickup truck and the sleeping in the truck bed with some kind of canopy on it is one of the what I consider kind of the low impact vehicle camping systems, right? Car camping systems. So, you know, there's they're sleeping in the back of the SUV, like Nate Zoiks mentioned. My friend Amanda Llewellyn that makes like some of the videos and stuff. Like she made a video of the Coyote Works group overland trip, made a shooting video. Any of you guys that went on the group overland trip probably met Amanda. Like she has a Toyota 4Runner and she has it set up so she sleeps in the back of her Toyota 4Runner. So one way of, you know, low impact, high speed, low drag vehicle camping is camping inside your vehicle, like an SUV. Again, like Nate camping inside his XJ or whatever. I would say another way is having a rooftop tent on top of your vehicle. And then another way is like a pickup truck with a truck bed canopy on it. You know, those are kind of the three most viable options for being able to camp in your vehicle without adding a lot of weight and bulk, or without connecting to a trailer, or without adding something like an actual cab over camper or something like that. So to me, those are kind of the, you know, for those of you that are just thinking about maybe getting into overlanding, those are kind of the three options that I would look at for starting out with. And there's people out there that that do really well, that swear by, you know, one of those three ways, or not necessarily swear by, but have gotten one of those three ways set up and working really well for them. So let's see. Bert Bell is saying ditch the canopy and get a fiberglass cap with a roof rack capable of handling a rooftop tent. That would definitely be an option. I have considered that. However, I will tell you guys that probably, let's see, wedge campers like the Go Fast campers. Yep. So yeah, those actually look like a pretty decent option. Some of those are pretty slick. Oh, so one other thing that I was going to tell you guys that's a kind of a downside about this soft topper is, and this actually was an issue on this trip, is believe it or not, in spite of how cold it is, there was getting to be a couple of bugs out. And so the only way to vent this soft topper, now someone has said that they actually make a replacement rear for it that is an actual screen instead of a window, but there's no way in the configuration that I have to vent it without just opening it to the air, which allows bugs or mosquitoes in or whatever. Asa, what's happening, man? He says, check out the Tacoma guy. Check out the Tacoma guy, built his own wedge Alu-cab style for his truck. Yeah, those wedge styles actually look pretty interesting to me. So one thing about this truck, my grandpa's truck, is it is a half-ton truck. It doesn't have a ton of extra power. So, you know, my thought is to keep it relatively lightweight. I feel like if I was going to go with something like a wedge camper, I would go all the way to like a pop-up cab over camper or something like that. I don't know, but I'll have to think about that. The wedge campers do look like a nice kind of middle ground in between a truck bed canopy and the actual truck bed camper. Okay, so Lawrence K saying he definitely recommends the rear screen for the soft topper. The difference in dust is surprisingly minimal, but much more comfortable. Yeah, and that makes total sense too. Blind Man Overland, let's see. Yeah, definitely rocking Grandpa's truck. Yep, just got back from another good trip in it. Man, I did a lot of miles this trip, but that was pretty awesome. Yeah, Eddie Fife is saying keep it old school, carry a ground tent. To be honest with you guys, man, I really enjoy ground tent camping, man. It's I don't know. To me, it's one of the more, comfortable ways to camp. The thing about ground tent camping is that's is one of the easiest ways to have like a lot of room, a lot of space in there. Like that, I have that Gazelle T4 tent, but I also have like a Kodiak canvas tent. I think it's like a 9x9 or something like that. Real similar size to the Gazelle. Obviously, the Kodiak canvas tent takes a little bit more time to set up, but it's quite a tent when it is set up. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with ground tents. That's one thing that actually surprises me is how few people I see in the overland community ground tent camping. Um, I mean, there's definite advantages to the rooftop tent, and for me, for a lot of the way that I travel and everything, the rooftop tent makes a good option. One of the main reasons being that a lot of the country that I'm in is like super rocky, uneven. It's really finding a decently level spot or finding a spot without lava rocks on it or sagebrush or whatever can be quite a challenge. So one of the reasons why I don't camp out of a ground tent more is it just narrows down the places. It makes me have to be that much more picky about my camping spot. And as you guys know, there's already like plenty of times when I'm rolling into camp after dark and I'm basically just looking for any halfway decently level spot I can find. Yeah, and definitely getting off the ground is nice for sure. Yeah, Southwest Idaho Overlanding is brought up the comment about a trailer. I've noticed like Brad at Trail Recon and Marco; those guys have been running trailers recently. I mean, there's a lot to be said for a trailer. My thing is that it's just like the places that I go. Again, like a lot of the time when I'm going out on my trips, like the trails are unknowns, and I just don't want one more. And again, I'm not saying that this is extremely limiting or anything, but for me, it is just one more thing that I have to think about is making sure that I don't get myself wedged back in some kind of a little slot canyon where I can't get the trailer turned around or can't get the Jeep past the trailer or something like that. So there's a lot of trips that I go on that a trailer would be just fine, but to be honest with you guys, when I'm exploring completely unknown trails, places where you can't get any information on or whatever, the trailer just feels like a liability to me. Now, having said that, I love the idea of having a trailer all packed up and ready to go, sitting in the driveway or sitting in your backyard. So all you have to do is back up to it, hitch onto it, and drive out on the trail. Like that is pretty sweet. And then it allows you to not have all of that gear in your vehicle all the time. Um, all right, guys. I hate to do this, but I'm actually pretty starving. I'm almost done with these pickled asparagus. Man, where is Sarah and Nick? Oh, John Dice, how's it going, my friend? Good to see you. Sorry about this, guys. I hate to do this. I hate to eat in front of you, but I'm absolutely starving. Zatara, man, you're on a roll tonight. Scooby gear to recover the guns that dropped out of the boat. So he kicked in money for a boat rental, and he kicked in money for the scuba rental for when all the bands go away and I can go recover my guns out of the lake again. That's good thinking, man. Nelson Fernandez from Florida. John Dice, I am doing well, my friend. I walked, I don't even know how many miles I walked. Where I camped, I really wanted to explore up into some pretty cool formations. I were kind of fossil bearing formation, so I don't want to give away too much because you guys will see the video. Hopefully I'll get it finished this week, but man, I hoofed it up and down some steep mountains today. Bill Gates. That's awesome, man. Thank you. All right. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, who has gun? There's Sarah. I know, these are amazing. So again, for those of you guys that missed the beginning, Crazy Carlson's spicy pickled asparagus. The only thing I'm disappointed about is I'm down to about the last 3 or 4 of them in there. God, those things are awesome. All right, I think I'm gonna live now. So let's see. Diamond Divas, Dana Barish, thank you so much. Hi from David and Dana. They actually were out here on a trip, and I got to have dinner with them. Was that last week or the week before? Had a really, really enjoyable dinner. Have gotten to know both David and Dana at dinner a little bit. And hey, for those of you that want something completely random and interesting, go check out Dana Barish's Diamond Divas YouTube channel. Just go check it out and tell me if you don't find it like just entertaining. Anyway, so that's all I'll say about that. I'll leave a little bit of a mystery on that. So Dana and Dave, hope you guys are doing well. Really look forward to talking to you guys more. Really enjoyed our conversations. So a couple of things real quick. One is just the obligatory. I always want to tell you guys how much I appreciate the super chat contributions. John Dice, thank you, my friend. Between the super chat contributions and then the PayPal direct contributions, or the contributions to the PayPal donate link, my gas and tires fund that's down in the description of all my videos, that's pretty much the main revenue source off of my channel. That and then the merchandise sales through Lolo Overland. So that stuff, those contributions, that merchandise sales, that's what helps me keep my channel independent, free of corporate sponsorship money and those things, and helps me cover the cost of all the cameras and the video equipment and everything. So as always, I really appreciate your guys' support there. Oh, wait a minute. Bill Gates, thank you, my friend. I just saw somebody leave a comment about a teepee. A Pomely teepee. It's like a hot tent. That is something that I've never really tried, is a hot tent. John Dice, thank you, my friend. You're too kind, man. Yeah, like some form of a hot tent with a stove in it. That is something that I've never, well, let me take that back. When I was young, we guided elk hunts, my dad and I, and then oftentimes we hunted second elk season, which was in the snow, and a lot of times we packed in our elk camp on horseback. And so we set up big wall tents with stoves inside them. So technically, I guess that's a hot tent, but those were big, like 14 by 16 tents. So what I'm talking about is more like what I think that guy was talking about, which is more of like a modern teepee or a modern like 3 or 4 person tent that has a stove jack in it that you can run a small wood stove in. Actually, Brett with Warfighter Outfitters, for any of you guys remember, he set one up on the last Coyote Works group overland trip, and then that worked really good. What's up, Nate O'Reilly? How's it going, my friend? To match mine, come on, let's show the... Oh, John Dice, you're awesome, my friend. You're awesome, my friend. Really appreciate that. So, a couple other things that I wanted to kind of talk to you guys about. One is, a while back, I told you the story of lost blue bucket gold. And so since then, my buddy John and Mike and Kevin and myself have been meeting weekly. We have a conference call every Wednesday night, and we've been planning out our first expedition in the search for the lost blue bucket gold. So we've got dates set. We're early May will be our first actual in the field expedition. In the meantime, we've just been doing research. So I won't go through the whole story again because I did that on another Coyote Works YouTube live, but this is going to be a long-standing project on my channel that you guys will see probably for at least the upcoming year. I'm working on the first episode, the first video in the series of the search for the lost blue bucket gold. But basically, The legend of the Lost Blue Bucket Gold is that it was discovered by members of the Lost Meek wagon train. And so, again, real abridged story. The Lost Meek wagon train is a story about a wagon train that was coming across the Oregon Trail. It was approximately half of the wagons that left from Missouri, from the Missouri River one year. When they got to Vail, Oregon, about half of the wagons decided to follow Stephen Meek as their guide and take a shortcut, what later became known as the Meek Cutoff. Holy smokes, Bill Gates, man, thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate that. That is huge, man. Way kind, way too generous. So Stephen Meek was basically, he led this wagon train on a route called Meek's Cutoff, and the story goes that maybe Meek did or maybe he didn't really know that country well. And I have some different theories about that. The prevailing kind of history or sense of history is that the wagon train was lost. I don't necessarily know that that's the case, and in my video series I'll go in and I'll explain to you why I think maybe that wasn't the case. But let's just say that one thing that happened was they did not encounter water where they expected or where they needed to encounter water. So somewhere between Vail, Oregon, or what's now Vail, Oregon, then it wasn't Vail. Lulu7403, thank you. Another one for the land fund. That's pretty cool. I think actually next weekend I'm running down to look at a piece down in southeastern Oregon. So anyway, so the story of the Lost Blue Bucket Gold is that somewhere between Vail and probably Prineville, where I live, somewhere in between there, where that wagon train was traveled along their route, some kids or some teenagers from the wagon train discovered some gold, and no one's ever been able to find where they discovered that gold since then. So that's a real abridged version of it. And so basically what John and Mike and Kevin and myself are going to do is we've started the research and the planning phase, and we are actually going to either find the Lost Blue Bucket Gold or prove that it doesn't exist. That's kind of our goal with this whole thing. So I'll be doing a video series on this. Now, it won't be every video that I do. There will be other trips and stuff going on in between. This project might last for a long time, but I think it's a story that's worth telling, and I think it'll be a really interesting experience. If nothing else, the whole process of tracking back along the Lost Meek wagon train is going to be really interesting. And between utilizing technology, we've talked about maybe some ground penetrating radar. We've all got metal detectors. We've been researching diary entries and books and things like that. So we have kind of a starting point planned out, and you guys will see that in the upcoming video there. But what I wanted to tell you guys tonight is, just in case any of you are interested in kind of learning a little bit more about it, there's a couple of books that are pretty readily available that talk about the Lost Meek wagon train. So one of them is, and this one actually was sent to me by my buddy Oregon Mike, really good friend of mine. Mike and I have been buddies for a long time. He was actually one of my earlier inspirations for getting into YouTube, and not only that, but he's a moderator on these chats. In fact, he's probably on here. We were texting back and forth earlier, so my guess is he's on here. So Oregon Mike sent this book to me, The Meek Cutoff. So this is a pretty interesting book here, and it gives a really good overview of the whole story of the Meek wagon train. Another one that's pretty readily available is this book, Wood, Water, and Grass. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in just a second. But then if you ever get through Prineville, go to a place called Bowman Museum, and that's the local museum here in Prineville and local historical society. And Steve Lent is one of our local historians, and he puts together a lot of these books and does a lot of field research. So this is a book that was actually put together by our local museum, and it has pictures in it and everything. This is a really cool book. So what's nice about all three of these books, and I would say that if nothing else, if you want to learn a little bit more about it, get this book, The Meek Cutoff. If you're going to explore Oregon at all, especially like central or central southeastern Oregon, you will be in territory where the Meek wagon train went through, and so you'll find that pretty interesting. But one thing, and Kevin was the one, Kevin, who's on our Legends team. I'm calling it our Legends team, looking for the legend of the Lost Blue Bucket Gold. Kevin is the one that turned me on to this book, and I think he said he found this at a visitor center, like at Pete French's Round Barn down in Harney County or something like that. Sammy Sam was in Prineville yesterday. You just missed me. That's where I live. Unfortunately, while you were in Prineville, I was out in the desert camping southeast of there. But so here's what I thought it was really cool about this book. The title of this book is called Wood, Water, and Grass. And the meaning of this title is that every single day when that wagon train was traveling across the desert, those were the three critical resources that they needed. And they needed those almost every single day. Most of the wagons didn't have a capacity for carrying much more than about 10 gallons of water, maybe 20 gallons of water. And so that being the case, they needed water for stock almost every day. Well, the first place where our expedition is going to take us to is a campsite where the Meek wagon train finally found water after being 7 days without water. So that'll be the first field expedition. Now we have to actually get out on the ground and try to identify exactly where they camped. So we're going to try to find physical evidence that proves beyond a shadow of a doubt where they camped, because we believe it was someplace between that camp and another area, which I don't want to go into too much detail, which is where the gold would have been discovered. So what I thought was interesting about this is really similar to kind of, people ask me the question all the time of like, how do you pick a good campsite? And so it's kind of the same process for me. Is it's all about what resources that I need. So for me in modern times, it's not necessarily wood, water, and grass, because I don't have any oxen that have to eat grass, so I don't need grass. And I usually carry plenty of water with me, so I don't necessarily need water. Wood is oftentimes a resource. But when people ask the question about how to pick a good campsite, the first thing is finding a campsite that has the resources you need. So for me, what those are a lot is some cover. So I like some trees or some terrain that kind of block the wind or the weather from me. And depending on the time of year might depend on what kind of terrain I want. A pro tip for you guys in the winter time is like cold air settles. So I don't necessarily want to be in the bottom of a depression. Usually if I can be up on a little bit higher ground than the lowest point in a general area, that's better. It sometimes can be a couple of degrees warmer. Sometimes it can be 5 or 10 degrees warmer there. So resources is one of the main things when trying to pick a good campsite. And so again, for me, it's going to be a little bit of cover. Like yesterday, I camped in a pretty exposed area and had to deal with some wind and some sun. It actually got pretty hot fast this morning, and so I didn't have any shade in my camp at all. So that wasn't the ideal choice. It wasn't the end of the world, but it wasn't the ideal choice. And so that would be one resource. Another resource that I look for is I like some rocks around so that I can make my classic Coyote Works half moon fire reflector wall. And by the way, yeah, I was just Instagramming with somebody today who stumbled across one of my campsites, and actually I'm not sure if he ended up getting to use it or what, but he sent me a little Instagram video with one of my fire pits on it. And then, so wood, obviously if it's any time of year when I'm going to have a campfire, wood is another resource that I'm going to look for out there. So yeah, I just thought I'd share that with you guys. I don't really have a ton of show and tell for you, and since I'm out here in the field, I don't have access to a lot of stuff, but I did was in an area that was pretty cool today, and I just thought I'd show you guys. I had a handful of these. I'm forever picking up like what I think are cool rocks. Some people don't think they're Oh, Trenna is saying they camped up against a cliff. I love it when I can get backed up against a nice cliff, especially if I've got a nice valley out in front of me with a view. So hey, I wanted to show you guys a couple of things. This is a pretty cool piece of agate right here that I found. What's interesting about this, and this is one thing that whenever I'm out like sort of rock hounding or even just with somebody that likes rocks, one thing that I wait a minute, let's see, Vaughn Miller, thank you my friend, 777. Safe travels on my adventures. I will do, my friend, I will do, and thank you. One thing that I think is interesting is look at this this agate on the inside of this rock here, but if it wasn't broken, this is what it looks like on the outside. It actually just looks very plain, and I even cleaned it up a little bit, but so if it wasn't for this being broken and that being exposed, you would never know that this is actually a chunk of pretty nice agate. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And then this one, some of this stuff is going to be really difficult to, probably the camera's not going to do it justice, but this is a just really cool color, a very interesting color laced with some agate inside there. It was just really interesting, all the different kinds of stuff I was finding. I'd love to come out west. Very cool stuff out there. Man, I'd actually like to get down to Alabama sometime. Oh, there's Oregon Mike. Oh, Oregon Mike saying that I can use that agate with my fire steel. I didn't actually know that. So you're saying that the agate is generally strong enough that it'll flake, it'll make a spark off of a fire steel or a carbon knife blade, huh? That's interesting. Then we've got this completely white, kind of more of a white jasper material, which is also another form of agate. Then more jasper here, and this is a completely yellow color. It was just so interesting that there were all these different colors of agate out there. And then this one's orange. So we got like yellow, orange, and this has even got, and look how orange that is up in the corner. It's pretty cool. And then this one is like a deep blue green with a bunch of agate up in there. So anyway, yeah, that white jasper. Yeah, Mike saying that he likes that white jasper. Yeah, me too. That stuff's pretty cool. Yeah, and so I was finding some pretty cool stuff out there. And then here's another chunk. I don't even know what this is. This is like some kind of a quartz crystal or something like that. Oregon WJ Adventure. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate it. Yeah, Jason Perry's saying that he's seen a lot of red jasper in East Idaho. Yeah, and we have some of it around here, but this area that I was in this weekend, it was just really interesting how the variety of different rocks and material that were in there, up to and including, you know, fossils and things like that. So, so let me take a peek at my list here. Gave you guys an update on the search for the Blue Bucket Gold. Showed you my Meek Wagon Train books. So yeah, and I don't know if I really made my point home, but basically the point I was making about the Meek Wagon Train books was, you know, you guys will see some of this stuff in my videos. And, you know, by the way, I was really thinking about how to structure these videos, and it's going to be a real challenge and a stretch for me. What I really want to do is I want to be able to kind of show you guys, give you some insight into the research and the planning and the, you know, kind of the tension and the mystery and then the discovery and everything. We have some really cool planning sessions, so I've been trying to record some clips out of our planning sessions. So, but I just, you know, I've never done videos like that before, and so we'll see how they turn out. But I guess my thought process was, for those of you that are really interested in following that video series that I'm doing, you might really appreciate kind of learning a little bit more of the Meek Wagon Train story, or the Meek Cutoff story. So I guess another thing that I would tell you guys, man, Bill, thank you, my friend. Another thing that I would tell you guys is that one thing you're going to find, like I just showed you 3 different books on the Lost Meek wagon train. And one of the things that you guys are going to find when it comes to history, if you start reading about history, is if you read multiple books about the same piece of history, what you're going to find is that a lot of times they're all different. They all tell a little bit different story. And a lot of times the instinct is to say, well, which one's right and which one's wrong, right? And that's always really difficult to figure out. But also, it's not necessarily that somebody's intentionally being misleading, but a lot of history, when it gets that old, like the Meek wagon train, a main source of information about what happened on that is actually handwritten diary entries from the people that were on the adventure. Now, if you think about that, you think about that if 10 people write in their diary about a certain day's travels on the wagon train, they all may have perceived something a little bit different. So a lot of what happens when it comes to the old history of the West, history of these old wagon roads and things like that is you do run into that issue where you're collecting this history that's passed down by stories, that's passed down by writing that certain people did, and because it's people and people remember things differently, and sometimes too it's not even written down at the time. It's written down from stories from people who experienced it telling it. And so you get this issue a lot where to find out the true story, you really end up kind of reading a bunch of information and trying to sort it all out, sift through it, and try to come up with the commonalities. You know, you're going to find differences between and how 10 different people relay a piece of history. And so what you have to look for is the commonalities. And then for me, like, this is the thing that I love more than anything in the world, is finding the commonalities and the stories, but then going out there and finding the physical evidence that fits into that story too. So that's what I'm really excited about. I think if we're not careful, this might become one of the most comprehensive looks at the at least this little section of the Meek wagon train that we're going to look at. So I hope you guys enjoy that. Having said that, it looks like that is everything on my list. I don't even know what time it is. 6:52, so it's barely been an hour. So we've got some time, guys. I'm not in a huge rush. So if you guys have questions, man, running out of room here. So if you guys have questions, comments, other stuff that you want to chat about, I've got a little bit more time. I do want to get out of here before too long because I've got a little ways to drive still out in the backcountry, and I'd just as soon get the drive out of my way before it gets dark. All right, so Sammy Sam says, always thought that Canyon City was the site of the lost Blue Bucket mine. So here's the thing, you might be right. My theory is, I think that it happened between this area where we're going to start looking. There's one downside to that theory, to my theory about where the general area where it's at, and that is that there's not a lot of gold-bearing deposits in that area. There are some, but the other possibility, now Canyon City's probably a little too far north. That was quite a ways out of the way of where the wagon train went. However, to Sam's point, the that area a little bit more like northeast of Vale in the earlier part of their journey, they were probably closer to higher concentrations of gold-bearing areas. Oh, what was that Oregon History Hunters? The Oregon Possible Fire Obsidian. I gotta follow this little thread here. Oh, yeah. Oh, Mike's saying he found some work stuff out of that beautiful red-black obsidian. Let me see. I got something right here. Ah, sorry about that, guys. I just wanted to show you I had a couple of these laying in my truck. So here's a black obsidian. This is just a chunk of a worked arrowhead. It's missing the it's hard to see that. It's missing the tip and the base. But you can see that nice conchoidal fracturing on there. So that's pretty cool. But what I was really excited about was this one that I found. Unfortunately, the base is broken off of it, but having said that, it's made out of this beautiful agate material. Super rare around here to find arrowheads made out of some of these other materials. So anyway, very, very cool. I was really, really excited about that one and just heartbroken that I couldn't find the other half of it. I dug around in the area where I found it looking for the other half, but I just could not find it. So anyway, thought I'd show you guys that. Gebly, let's see, Gebly, oh, no, not Gebly. Gerlev Peterson from Central Point. How's it going, my friend? So what questions do you guys have? Let's see. Are you panning in the area that you search, or you just use a metal detector? So Marco Antonio is asking, are we planning on doing some gold panning in the areas, or will we just be using our detectors? No, I think we'll be doing some gold panning. I had to dig a little bit, but I found my gold pan in the garage, so I definitely think we're going to do that. Bill Gates is asking, have I seen or found any artifacts of any Asian in the backcountry? I think that, Bill, is that what you're asking? Is have I found Asian history artifacts back there? So I have actually. There's two areas where I've explored a lot, where there was one was an area that was logged that's not too far from here. It was logged by rail, and most of the labor in the logging camps was Chinese labor. So I've found like authentic china from China there, and then I've also found these Chinese coins there I found with my metal detector. And then I found an old can. It looked like a spice can. This is a different area out where a lot of the Asians came from San Francisco to mine the area. And I found inside kind of a mine tunnel, I found an old tin thing that had was all Chinese writing on it. That was pretty cool. I still have that somewhere. It's like a red, it almost looks like one of those metal like shilling pepper cans, but it has Chinese writing all over it. Or I'm assuming Pepe D's Nuts. How's it going, my friend? Yeah. So I have the I am planning too on I just recently found an old map that shows me some camp locations of some of the old Chinese labor logging camps that I didn't know about before. So at some point I'm going to get up there and explore around those camps. That might actually be something that I'll do a little later in the summer, like on towards the fall. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to do some metal detecting in that area too, because most of that stuff is relatively close to the surface. And oh, I was going to tell you guys too, because I've been talking to, I don't know if I saw him on here, my friend Dirt Bandit Outdoors, and I don't think I saw FatMat from FatMat's Adventures on here tonight either. Yeah, the Oregon History Hunters are saying that the Orientals, the Asians, built lots of roads and rails. Yeah, they were a real significant source of a lot of the labor for some of those major projects early on. So Gerlev is asking, what about my overland? Oh, my overland group trip for some of them. Guys, I definitely want to do that. I'm 100% confident I'm going to do at least one, if not a couple, this year before the end of the year. I just have a couple of things hanging out there right now that I don't know when they're going to happen. And hopefully by the first week in May, I'll have the dates sorted out on those. And then I'll be able to set dates for the group trip. So what I would like to do is I would like to do one just kind of really big open invite, anybody's welcome to come trip. Mark Taniguchi, buy myself a burger, fries, and apple pie when I get back in town. I tell you, my friend, I'm probably going to get all three of those things because I am starving, man, and I put in some miles this weekend. So, God, that sounds amazing, man. Big old bacon cheeseburger right now. That's awesome, Mark. So let's see, where was I at? Mark got me all distracted thinking about a big old bacon cheeseburger, man. Let's see, Sammy Sam is asking, have I ever heard of a map called the Explorer's Map of Oregon? I don't think I have. It sounds vaguely familiar, but I'm not picturing it. Let's see, what's going to be bad red flag warning already for fire danger in most of Oregon. Yeah, guys, so that is one thing that's really an issue right now, is it is incredibly dry for this time of year. Like right now it is it's April. Obviously it's still April and it is insanely dry. Like if we don't get some spring rain, like the range is going to be in really, really poor shape. Let's see. Yeah, Jason, man. Yeah, so I think that's about it, guys. I don't have much else, so I'll check out the comments here and just see if anybody has any last minute burning desires before I sign off. But man, as always, I just really appreciate you guys joining me. I was looking forward to this live. I was really bummed to miss it last Sunday, but going forward, just a reminder again, I'll be doing them every other Sunday through the summer because I know a lot of you guys are out doing stuff too. So anyway, let's enjoy the long days and get our trips in. I've got a ton of video to edit and a lot of exciting trips that I want to get out there to show you guys. So yeah, so I won't see you guys next Sunday. We'll do it the following Sunday. I'll do an announcement like normal. As always, man, I appreciate every single one of your contributions, man. Some of you guys so generous. All of you guys with the super chats, man. I just can't tell you how much of a help that is. The next piece of gear that you guys are contributing to is I'm actually going to get a new tablet that has this. So basically the setup I'm doing now for this live is I'm using my phone as a hotspot to my iPad. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually get a tablet that has its own line. I'm going to get another cellular data line and get the 5G and network and everything. And I think that's going to give me better streaming opportunity out in the field. And what I'd like to do is continue to do as many of these out in the field as I can, at least when the weather's nice. So that's a thing. That's the next thing that your guys' contributions are going for. And as always, every single thing that you guys contribute goes right back into cameras, video editing gear, whatever, it all goes right back into the channel, man. I have a day job that supports my lifestyle and everything. So it's all about just the keeping myself in the gear and everything and trying to keep progressing that to keep making my videos a little bit better and a little bit better. So I really appreciate that support. I honestly could not be doing this without you guys. So I really do look at this like Coyote Works as a group community effort. It's all of us working together to do this. And I just really feel extremely grateful to have your guys' support. And even, more than that, I got to tell you guys how enjoyable it is when I'm out on my trips and I'm thinking about you guys. I'm thinking about Mark. I'm thinking about Sam. I'm thinking about, you guys you're my friends and you make this experience even better. I love the outdoors. I'd spend every bit of time that I could out in the outdoors, but having you guys along with me for the adventures has just added such another cool dynamic to it. So from the bottom of my heart, I really want to tell you guys how much I appreciate that and your support and your contributions. And that's all for this one, guys. Until the next one, Coyote Works out, and I hope you guys have some adventures on your own. Cheers, guys. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday.